You know, today, raising your first round is not the biggest challenge you'll face on your way to realize your dream. After you raise your first round, one of your biggest challenges would be building a winning team. And with the way the current high-tech job market looks like, bringing the best talent is a lot harder than building a working hoverboard. So in order to try and help you understand what you can do to improve your chances and getting the best people to work at your startup, we've put together a panel of some of the best recruiting talent in Israel to share with you how they do it and what you can do too. I'd like to invite on stage Rotem Kazir, VP HR at Forder and one of the leading recruiting personas in the startup industry. Dan Valach, VP HR at SimilarWeb, one of the fastest growing startups in Israel. And Iris Shoor, serial entrepreneur, now in her third startup, Oribi. Iris will share with us the perspective of a founder without an HR person and how she recruits awesome people in the earlier stages. So welcome, guys. Thank you for coming. We all know the problem, so we're not going to talk about the problem today. We're going to start directly from the solution. One of the challenges of recruiting today is finding the right people, finding the best talent, the people who don't want to be found, those who are getting harassed by sourcers and recruiters all day long. But these are the people that we want to bring to our shop. These are the superstars. Where do we find those people?
Okay. It's a tough question. I think there's nothing obvious about it. We're all struggling, as you know. I think that the main thing that I've learned over the past years is that you look for these people where they're in their professional domains. Through LinkedIn, it's the most obvious solution. People are becoming ignorant to what they don't care about people reaching out. You need to find where these people get their professional upbringing and like meetups, like forums, like anything else, like Stack Overflow if you're looking for technological people, anything else that these people where they get their education from, and these are informal educations overall. They're looking for very close to the market and very, I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. They're looking for information and technological innovation, and these are found where these people, like the open source and GitHub and sources like that, and you can find them there mainly, and you can use your people to reach out to them, because they're not looking for HR people anymore. They're looking for the professional, the gurus, the people that are there to teach them and they can learn from.
Okay. Iris, you want to share? Where do you find your talent?
I'm probably going to present a different angle. I remember if you remember, when you invited me to take part in this panel, you told me that you usually speak about marketing, but this time I want you to speak about HR. And I think that this is a key point for me, that with HR, you need to do marketing as well. And your question was how to find the best people, and I think that the main question should be how to allow the best people to find you.
Okay.
Because I feel that there are many talented developers and designers and marketers out there that really want to work for a small startup, but they can't distinguish the different companies. And as you mentioned, I started a new company about 2 months ago. And the first question that I asked myself was what kind of company I want to build and what kind of product I want to build as a company and how to market it. And I think something which is super important for companies is to find their key values and to market it well. So some great examples are Zappos with their happiness. And they attract people that really look for a happy environment, or Buffer with the transparency. And I think that even if you're 2 people sitting in a basement, it's still possible to find a core value and to market it. It can be even one blog post, or small websites, but it's a way to attract people that are looking for similar values.
So basically, one of the things that you hear a lot these days is that to get the best talent, you have to put a lot of work in marketing, which is something you do for the long term. It's not something that will change your pipeline for tomorrow. So if you do want to reach out to people, you want to get those superstars, how do you reach out for them? Is that okay to contact someone who's working in a different startup or a company and is satisfied with his job? How do you get in touch? What do you say?
First of all, of course, it's always like everything is open market, but you just don't do it. Just don't do it all the time. You can't approach every company all the time. For example, we have around 50, 60 people in our R&D team. We had 2 companies targeting all our 50, 60 employees. That's kind of crazy, and I think that's a bit problematic on the ethical side. But I do think that if you want to find the best people, you have to be in their. They have to know you, and you have to talk to them. Even if it's not like I want you to come work for me. Consult with experts, build your network around them, and eventually, maybe in a year or 2 or whenever, they're going to want to move forward, and then they remember the guy that talked to them about something. So I'm not saying about just hunt them all the time, like put a person to just find the best people on LinkedIn or anywhere else, on GitHub or anywhere else, and tell them come work for me. Just build a relationship, and eventually this relationship will work for you in the long run.
You want to add?
Yeah. Poaching candidates or people that you're interested in is something that's very common. And I think 5 years back, people would look at it, in a bad way. It's unethical. I think there are certain companies that have my photo on their walls, like persona non grata. But because I've done it a lot, I think it's our responsibility, first and foremost, as HR people, to retain our people, and it's inevitable that they will look for other opportunities outside. I think that continuing to Dan's point, fostering relationships is one of the best ways to hire really good talent. It's when you start out and you look for these specific people that you want, and that you track their professional progress and see where they're moving, what they're aiming at, and you start very slow. And there's some hires that I've done recently that have been I've been in touch with them for 2 years. So you need to be patient, and I know for early stage startups it's very tough because you need these best people on the spot, and I think that it's very important that you invest in it in your very early days, because your 10 first people are the most important, and they are gonna set what your culture and what your company is going to look like moving forward, because people want to come work with good people.
So let's talk a bit about compensation. That's a very difficult issue, especially for startups in a younger age that don't have the money to afford themselves to pay salaries like Google and Microsoft and Facebook does. What's your guys' take on how to attract good talent in terms of compensation? What can you do to attract them?
Well, first of all, I do want to say, and this is for all the young entrepreneurs here, that I found that bringing the first people is always the easiest, because even though I know that for my first company, for example, we held the interviews in my kitchen, and we had very low salaries, but I think that the offer was really good because they were able to have a really interesting position and to join a very early stage startup and to learn about the business. I think that once you cross the first 10 or 15 first employees, that's where the problem starts. So I think it's mainly about highlighting the value of being an early employee. I don't think that most developers today...
What is the value?
So first of all, I think it's learning the business. Many developers and other people that are joining a startup do want to start their own company one day. And if they're going to be one of the, on the founding team and to be one of the, let's say, first 10 employees, they'll be able to learn how to raise funds and how to make product decisions and how to build a team. And I think it's also very exciting because they're going to do more and the role is going to be much wider. So for me, it's less about compensation and it's more about a more interesting role and a very high potential, because if the company will grow, they're probably going to manage larger teams later and so on. And I do think that options is an amazing tool. One thing that I do think is very important for startup is to help employees understand the power of options. So many startups tell future employees that you're going to get 70,000 options. It can mean a lot and it can mean nothing. So just to build with them certain scripts and to show them that if the company will have 3 rounds and will be acquired at $10 million or $100 million, you'll get X. If we're going to get acquired in $500 million, this is how much you're going to get. So just to build with them different scenarios, even the ones that are not very optimistic.
Okay.
If I may add, I completely agree with Iris. I think when you start a startup, like the risk takers are the first one to come, and they see an opportunity there, so it's the first people are kind of easy to hire, and they're not always after the immediate money. Also, when you're a successful startup, it's also kind of easy. The problem is in between, is when you're after the 10, 20 people, and you're not yet that hot startup that everybody wants to be part in. The problem in hiring people is when you're in that middle stage of, we're on our way to succeeding, we are growing kind of steadily, but we're not, you never heard of us, or you heard about us from your friends. So there...
Or you read about us in Geektime.
You read about us in Geektime. But there, you need to think about interesting solutions about how to bring people in. Options is one thing. Building a community around your team, around your products, like that. When you talk to one of the developers, they say, "Yeah, we're doing the most amazing thing. You haven't heard of us because we're going to change the world." You want to build it's like a sayeret, like something that everybody wants to be part of. Although we're not bootstrapped, we already raised some money, but this is like we're going to change the world. So making your employees feel like that, for them to be your PR, is an important part after the first 10, 15 employees, in my opinion.
I heard that one of the things that companies now offer at early stages is that developers get a day off or something like that to work on their own venture. What's your take on that?
I think it's a wonderful idea, and unless it's a matter of
it's a double-edged sword.
Yes,
obviously.
And yet, when you look at it, I think that's one of the things that brings most pride to a company is if their employees have moved on and opened their own companies and can tell what they've learned working at their past companies. And I think it's a matter of entrepreneurs want to foster more entrepreneurship, and they want to see it coming in. I think Ford is an amazing example of such a thing. Is people coming out of fraud sciences and opening new companies. So it's a good thing. It's a matter of the take of the entrepreneurs and the co-founders if they want to.
You have different opinions?
I believe that if you want to start a company, if you want to just start your own company. So I don't think that it's possible to start a company or to work on a venture on a part-time. I do think that joining an early stage startup can be a very important step in order to build a better startup later on.
Okay.
As long as we own the IP, then everything is fine.
So this is a question for all three of you. What would be the right stage for a startup to bring in an HR or recruiting person in-house?
I think fairly early. Like, I don't think that you need one for the first 5, 10 employees. I would maybe then use someone like an outsource recruiter. There are a few very good out there, because still you need an expertise in recruiting to bring in the best talent, or maybe if it's like the first time you've opened a company, then you need the assistance of someone who did it before. But when you reach a peak that either it's your first round and brought in quite a lot of money or a medium-sized investment, and you're seeing like a few dozen people that you want to hire in the next year, then I would say that is the time. But I do think that you need someone helping you recruiting from day one, because as it was said here in the panel, the first 10 employees are probably the most important ones. So you need help there. You don't need someone to sit in the office and be there all the time. You just need someone to understand the value of your business and explain it to your candidates better than you do.
Iris, your take?
I would say it's probably around the 20 or 30 people. But I think that the most important thing is that you're not bringing someone for making the HR interviews or for sorting the CVs. That's something that you can hire a freelance, or you don't need someone in-house. I think it's more about really building the process and optimizing the process and bringing in the different developers from different teams to interview and teaching them how to interview. So it's more about the stage where you want to build the process.
Rotem?
I think it's a matter of the experience that those co-founders have. I think that more experienced co-founders can probably, they get away with hiring the first 10 or 15 people on their own, and they know, they've been interviewing for a while, they know what to look for. If you're new at this and you don't have experience interviewing and looking for the talent that you want, you better get some help. And if you get some help, I wouldn't recommend getting your office manager to interview candidates. That's not the best help. You probably would have done it better. If you get help, then get professional help and that sounds bad. but get someone who's been around and seen stuff and can help you as an outsider. And it should be as a per need basis. It doesn't even have to be like full-time or something that's...
How much time did you invest in recruiting in your startups in the early stages?
A lot.
In terms of percentages of your total time?
I would say probably somewhere between 5 to 10%.
That's not that much.
It is when you need to also build the product and market it and raise money and some other stuff as well. Something that I do want to share is that I really believe in the big numbers. Well, especially after you cross the 10 people benchmark. So one thing that we've done at Takipi that really helped us is just to interview more. I think that many companies complain that it's really hard to find good candidates, but they interview only 1 out of 10 CVs. And we started doing Skype interviews of probably like 50% of the people that approach the company. And so instead of investing 1 hour in an interview and wasting the time of the candidate, we started interviewing via Skype with like 15 or 20 minutes online interview. And I think that's something that does take more time, but really helps to find really talented people that don't have impressive CVs.
Before we finish, one last question. We talked a lot about the short term. Let's talk a little bit about a bit longer term. One of the things we discussed earlier before the panel is that even early stage companies need to think about how they're going to recruit people down the road. So you mentioned a term called employer branding, which is something I heard is very hot today in the recruiting world. Can you please give us a little bit, a short explanation about that? From your side?
My take on employer branding is how people react to seeing your logo and hearing the name of the company. That's employer branding. If somebody sees an ad and sees the logo Forder and he says, Forder what, who? Then you have no employer branding. But if someone sees Forder and says, I heard about them, I've seen them, they presented some meetup or whatever, they've seen at some conference, that means that you're out there. Employer branding is so important at today's, the fight for talent. I mean, there's almost no other thing I would invest as much as employer branding. And it's important from day one, because as Dan and Ina said, there's a point where, you raised money, you're out there, then, the hype, kind of decreases, and then what? And then you need, people to recognize the brand name and everything. And that's something, and that means you need to be out there and do whatever you want. You need to promote that.
We're 1 minute short, so make it quick.
So I think employer branding is, like as Rotem said, one of the most important things. I think it's what helped SimilarWeb recruit the best talent. I think we invest a lot in employee branding. We're everywhere. We're talking about both technological and our persona as a tech, and we invested a lot of thinking about how we want to do it, how we want to be, we want the public to look at us. So exactly what she said, what Rotem said is, we want to, when people see SimilarWeb, say, oh, I want to work there. I know them.
Iris?
Well, I agree with Rotem and Dan. I would add that it's also about each future employee to know how it will be for him to work at this company. So it's not about the company itself, but more about why should I join this company and not a different one. And as I mentioned before, it's more about the values. It's less about they're having great parties and an amazing product and sushi nights, and more about I want to join this company because they're super technical, or I'm going to have personal growth over there, or I'm going to become an amazing manager.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.